Greetings, Esoteric Strand here. Today we're going to talk about my favorite books of 2011. Normally I'm not one for lists, top 10 CDs of 2011, top 10 this, top 10 that. It doesn't really matter. When you think about the boundaries of time and space and all this stuff, the lists are just going to keep coming. You could make a list for January, you could make a list for March, you could make a list for December, of any year you want. What makes a year so special? Why are you constrained to this? A list is a list. Good music is good music. I don't know. It just seems like a kind of a foolish endeavor. Anyhow, here's my list. 2011, and in no particular order, and these are not books that were necessarily published in 2011, although some of them are. It's books primarily that I read 2011. Could be books published that year, could be books published in the 1920s, could be ancient history, whatever. So anyhow, the first one that I have is the book called Imperium, and this is by Francis Parker Yockey. And this is a book that I found very revelational, very prophetic. It was like listening to an oracle speak or something. Very interesting book, and I would recommend anybody finding it online. I have it on my Kindle here at the ready, reading it at home, at work, wherever I might be. I may invest in a hard copy, I don't know. Excellent book, covers the whole gamut. And if you're familiar with the author, then you know what to expect there, and I'm not going to go into great detail. Otherwise, this video would go on for, hours. The second one that I'm going to mention here is called The Origins of Christianity, and this is by Revilo P. Oliver, which is an anagram, kind of interesting. Revilo Oliver. Very interesting book. Again, I read it online, downloaded it. Very interesting book in the public domain. I would recommend it as well, especially as it traces the origins of Christianity all the way back to Zoroastrianism and Zarathustra and all that stuff. So it's very interesting. The next one is Civilization, The West and the Rest by Neil Ferguson. This came out last year. Now, I purchased this book for my Kindle. It was actually the first book that I purchased, and it's excellent. It is excellent. I just finished it a couple days ago. I love it. It talks about the West's, what he calls the top apps, or the main apps that we have as a Western civilization, and why Western civilization has, in the last 500 years or so, triumphed over different parts of the world when the West was completely lagging behind, say in medieval times versus China, or versus the Ottoman Empire in the early days of the Sultans, Saladin. Or even versus Mesoamerican cultures. It's really interesting, compare and contrast, and why the West is the way it is now, why it achieved what it did, and looking forward, what we could expect if we abandon these traditions and killer apps that have made us successful. So anyway, I highly recommend that book. The next one is Suicide of a Superpower by Pat Buchanan. I had mentioned this in another video. I have the original physical relic in my hand here, and this is another book. I would probably put this right up there with Imperium as far as books that really had a big impact on me. And Pat Buchanan, I think, recently had been fired from MSNBC. No surprise there, as he probably deviates from their ideology probably every time they have him on. So I'm surprised he's been on that network as long as he has. But love this book. I recommend it. The next one here is Righteous Indignation by Andrew Breitbart. Now, I'm a big fan. I wouldn't necessarily call myself a right-wing conservative guy or a left-wing guy. I tend to be a little bit more libertarian, but I also tend to be very, very, some would even say staunchly anti-liberal. So anyhow, I like guys that just kind of like poke the eye of the liberal establishment. I like people that go against the grain, that go against authority, that rebel in the truest sense. And I'm not talking about the Occupy Wall Street. Those are pro-government rallies and mobs and marches and stuff like that. Pro-government, which is disgusting to me. I am anything but pro-government. So this is kind of an iconoclastic book, Righteous Indignation by Andrew Breitbart. I like this, and then it's a pretty cool book. I liked it, but I was a little disappointed with it. It talks a lot about his life and everything, but and a lot of his kind of the evolution of his character and his place in the pop culture political minefield. It's good, but it didn't knock my socks off. Next one here Sorry, my Kindle just timed out. Let's see, is The Bible of Unspeakable Truths by Greg Gutfeld. Now, I love Greg Gutfeld. I love Red Eye. This guy is not only funny, but he's also political, very well informed. He's out there. He's out there. He makes stuff that's typically very boring, or hard to digest, or stuff that usually kind of, repels people. But he makes it funny, and he mixes a lot of just offbeat stuff in there. So, and this book is what you would come to expect from Gutfeld if you've watched Red Eye or his appearances on, say, I don't know, Bill O'Reilly or some of the articles he's written. Good book. I would probably put it above Breitbart, but nowhere near the echelon of, Neil Ferguson or Pat Buchanan or Yockey or Revilo. Next one. I don't have it here because I let a friend borrow it, and I don't have it here, so just imagine I'm holding it. It's a black book with red lettering. This is Demonic by Ann Coulter. Excellent book. All her books are excellent, and I know she's a bomb thrower, blah, 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 right wing, blah, 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 but she does her research, and she goes against the grain. She clashes up against the authority. That's what I like, so I would recommend that book too. Check it out. And the last one on the list, one I just read last week actually, is The New World of Islam by Lothrop Stoddard. And this was written a while ago. I want to say that it was written in the 20s, but I'm not sure. I don't remember off the top of my head. But I was amazed at the amount of depth that was in that book, given the time period, and given the West's exposure to Islam, be it Shia or Sunni, or just the basic tenets of the Quran or the Al-Hadith. So I found it very illuminating and very interesting. I want to read more by this guy. I felt like he really had his finger on the pulse far in advance. The guy's like an oracle. Very interesting stuff. So anyhow, those are my favorite books of 2011. Check them out or don't. But I think, if you're into politics and kind of edgy subject material, and you're not one of those people that just shut down when you hear something that clashes against your own personal beliefs, be it philosophical, political, or metaphysical, or whatever, check out some of these books and see what you think. Anyhow. All right, talk to you later. Thank you. Bye-bye.